drag a little bit. Okay, he's got it. Got him. I'll wait. This time I got him. Sweet. Gotcha. Okay, so he's probably gonna jump out of my hands, but I caught this on the BFS rod. All right, so I'm gonna be showing you guys how to make one of the easiest fishing lures out there. It's also one of the most productive. You can catch anything with this lure. You can change the size to make it for crappie. You can go as big as you want for offshore. It don't matter. These lures catch fish. What is that you're talking about? What could this magical lure be? It's something that's been around for many, many years. And that's a bucktail jig. Got one on the BFS. Sweet. No freaking way. We got him. No freaking. Hand-tied 1/8 jig. I tied this morning. Made this lure this morning. 1/8 bucktail jig. It's got a little bit of feathers and some crystal flash in there. But other than that, it's just a bucktail. How's that for BFS? Freaking stud on the BFS. Super simple. All you're gonna need, hook, some thread, and a bucktail. It can be any color. You can use multiple colors. I'm gonna show you a couple different ways to make this. The first one we'll do is just bucktail. Nothing fancy. And I have two very different ones right here. And there's not a lot very different. This is just plain white, very sparsely tied. This one has a lot more hair on it, and it also has a little bit of saddle hackle and crystal flash. So what's the main difference in these two profiles? Well, unlike other lures where the bigger they are, the faster they normally will sink, with bucktails, the more sparse and the less hair there is, the less drag it causes in the water, meaning this will fall faster than this big profile. This big one is going to be almost like a parachute with all this hair back there. It's going to cause a lot of drag in the water, so it's going to fall very slow. I like these for sight fishing, especially redfish or any kind of shallow water stuff, any kind of spooky fish. It's not going to get down there super fast, so it's going to take a little longer to get to the bottom with these. But the bushier it is, the slower it falls, and I really like that, especially even in deep water for those bass that are hard and finicky to catch. You throw a big bucktail down there, they never seen that before, and it just kind of flutters by, oh, they'll smoke it. So now these are tied on 1/8 ounce. This wouldn't be what I was throwing offshore. This is more what I like to throw for redfish. So I really like these for sight fishing redfish or even bass. Just remember, it's the opposite of most lures. So the bigger profile is going to sink slower than your more sparse and skinny ones. This will fall a lot faster. All right, so I'm going to show you how to tie both of these. All I have on there is a H&H saltwater flats jig, 1/8 ounce. Put that in the vise. We'll wrap some thread on there to secure everything down to. Then we're gonna grab our deer ass. So this stuff, pretty smelly, but it's pretty straightforward. It's a buck's tail. It's literally what it is. It's a deer's tail. So we're gonna grab about a pencil's thickness worth of hair. So when you're holding a pencil, just imagine about that same thickness, and that's what you want to grab a pinch of. Grab a pinch of that hair, about a pencil's worth, and then we're gonna snip it at the very bottom. Pull that out. All right, now we're gonna do a little cleaning for this. So we're gonna hold the top fibers and we're gonna pull out all the short fibers. And this is gonna make a mess. You can throw this into a trash bag. I'm in a garage where I can just sweep it out, so, you know, my fiance will yell at me later, that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna split this in half, and that's gonna be my entire lure. So this is the bottom half. And I'm going to cut all the ends the same length to make it fit on there nice and evenly. And you can make it as long or as short as you want it. I'm going to make these a little bit longer, about 3 inches, 3.5 inches. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Did not put any tension on those, it just barely went around. Then I'm going to take my thumb and spread those hairs around evenly. And what that does is it pushes the fibers around the hook. So instead of it just being in that one spot where I set it on top, we can push it around the hook shank. Then we will cinch it up and add some wraps to make it stay there. Pretty simple. Or we just do the same thing on the other side for the top half. I'm going to snip the ends, make them even. And I'm going to put that on the top. Add a couple loose wraps, spread them out, and tighten it down. Alright. Now I don't know what I did with my whip finishing tool, so I'm just going to add a couple terrible hand knots. I'm not good at these. But I'm going to super glue these. I'm going to add some super glue to these threads, and that will secure everything nice and tight. Won't have to worry about these terrible knots that I'm doing. So there's a thing called a whip finishing tool for those who don't tie flies or tie lures, and it helps you tie knots. I just did a basic like overhand knot like 3 times, and then I'm going to add a couple dots of super glue right where the thread, all over the threads, and then right where the edge of the hair starts. And I'm going to use liquid super glue to make sure that soaks in. Okay, so this is a nice bushy bucktail. This will sink pretty slow. It's going to sink a lot slower than this really thin one. These will both catch the same amount of fish. Don't think that one's better than the other. They may be better one day versus the other. They may be after the smaller, faster one that day. The next day they may want something a little slower. Give the fish what they want. See what they like. All right, now let's tie one with some crystal flash, some saddle hackle. Maybe we'll do a little multicolor. All right, same thing. Hook in there, wraps the thread. This time, we're going to use some saddle hackle. And just to be a little bit different, I'm actually going to use some black saddle hackle in the middle of this one. And I'm going to grab about 4 to 5 nice and straight pieces. Pull them off. All right. And then I'm going to snip them at the length that I like. A little bit shorter. All right. I'm just going to tie this in. So I want it to be lined up with my bait like this. I don't want it to be sideways. So you want it to go right along line with your bait. Get nice one wrap, get it where I want it. One loose wrap, line it up where I like, and then we'll cinch it down. A couple tight wraps. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to put one on this side, and I'm going to mirror it. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to put 2 more the same way. And the last one. See, this one's got a little broken piece. I'm not worried about that because right here it's a little broken in the fibers, but I'm not worried about that because it won't be seen. This will be in the bait. I'm really worried about this part because that's the part that's going to be nice and flowy on the back. All right, now let's throw on some bucktail. Instead of using the white like we did last time, let's go a little bit different and let's do olive, and why not purple, because I have it. Now before I throw these on, I'm going to throw in some crystal flash. So this is going to be one that I'm going to use for redfish. I'm going to just make it a little bit stand out quite a bit. I'm going to throw some gold crystal flash on this one. Couple wraps. Boom, boom, boom. So all I'm doing with this crystal flash is I'm pulling out 2 fibers at once. I wrap it around my string, pull it like that, put it where I want it, and then I'll fold it back, add a couple wraps to secure it. Alright. And I'm going to trim these a little bit longer than the actual bait. I want them to stick out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to put the olive on the bottom. So I'm going to grab about half a pencil's worth of the olive. These fibers are long and thin compared to the white. The white, these fibers are thicker. They're not as long, they're a little stiffer. These are nice and flowy. Alright, a couple wraps, nice and loose, and then push it down and secure it. Alright, put a couple wraps on there, and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to add some purple to the top. About a half a pencil's thickness. Trim that, or cut that. And a couple loose wraps. Push it down where I like it. Spread it out, and then we will center up. Right. Then put a couple knots in there. So I'm just going to do a couple overhand knots. I lost my whip finishing tool, and then I'm going to put some super glue over these at the end. Alright, so I'm going to do a couple overhand knots just to secure this, and I can snip it. Alright, and boom, bucktail is done. So we got a little black in there just to give some contrast, some gold to stick out, and that nice purple and olive. Now this isn't any natural color that I would normally throw for bass. This is going to be used for redfish. They like purple a lot, and gold. Alright, so we tied a few bucktails. You get an idea of how to do it. It's pretty simple. You can tie a bunch of these up at once, and you can do all kinds of colors. And if you catch anything on them, tag me in it. I want to see what you caught on a lure you made, because there's just something about catching a fish on a lure you made. You can't beat that feeling. It's such a rewarding feeling. So hopefully you guys can get out there, tie a couple of these, and go slam some fish of all species. I've caught anything you think of on these. Drum, crappie, gar, bass, reds, anything you could think of. They'll eat this catfish. I caught a catfish on one of these. And we're out.